When players grind your track, they play the start on every single run. So if your map has a bad start, that will discourage players from continuing to hunt it. Also, having a great start to your map will give players on the map review server a good first impression. Players on map review only get 3 minutes to review a map, so having a fun, interesting, and unique start will make your map stand out. For this video, I rendered replays of the start of a ton of different comp maps and track of the days, so we can analyze them in detail and see what makes a great start. A booster start is the fastest way to bring the player up to gear 4 or 5. To create one, place some turbos or reactors right after the start block. It's important for the next section of the track to have something off-center to aim for, so the player isn't just holding forward without steering through all the boosters, which would be kind of boring. Here are some examples of well-known tracks that contain booster starts. The first example is Chroma's Purgatory, which shows that even some of the best full-speed tracks will just start with a plain booster. Booster starts often end up being a great choice for full-speed tracks because you don't want to waste any time at lower speeds. If you only have 45 seconds for your track, you don't want to spend 10 seconds at a low speed when those 10 seconds could be at full speed. Booster starts are extremely consistent, so both beginner and pro players will drive them approximately the same, making it easy to calculate the rest of the track because players will be at the same speed. Any random combination of sausage blocks will make a decent start. It's pretty much become a meme at this point. Sausage blocks are also frequently used to make variations or replacements of other types of starts. So for example, if you have a booster start, but you start on sausage, you can combine and mix and match things like that as well. Sausage blocks can often be difficult to fit into your actual route, but it's totally fine to just start the track with sausage and then have no more sausage on the rest of the track. So even if you have a full speed grass track, you can still put a few sausage blocks at the beginning to make your start a little more interesting. The start will get the players into your track. It doesn't have to be the same surface as the rest of the track. Sausage is a great block for setting up transitions, so you often see it paired with dirt tech tracks. So I don't know if I should be calling it sausage or bump road, but it's pretty much always a safe bet for your start. The classic U-turn start has been around for ages. That means the top players have driven and hunted so many maps with this type of start, they'll drive it perfectly every single time. It's been a little bit overused, so it won't necessarily make your track stand out, but it's always a safe choice because it's kind of that tested, tried and true start, and if you're doing a speed mapping comp and you can't think of something, it can never hurt to just start with a U-turn. We have a lot more interesting starts to go over later in this video, like precision or speed check starts. So there are plenty of different options, so you don't have to use a U-turn, but we do have to get the basics out of the way. Ultimately, the goal of this video is to compile as many examples of starts from different tracks to give you some inspiration. You can always come back and refer to the video if you're looking for how to start your track. You're also welcome to pause this video at any time to figure out what block combinations are being used on some of these tracks and then reuse those block combinations or try and make a slight variation of it for your track. Precision starts consist of a narrow path for the car to drive on, so the players have to drive perfectly and precisely or they'll fall off and have to redo the start. It's often a good choice for comp maps to slightly increase the difficulty, but you don't see it a lot in track of the days because track of the days need to be more beginner friendly, which precision starts are usually not that beginner friendly. The pipes that you see in Royal can be a good choice for precision starts. In general, precision starts have been pretty underused and there's a lot of room for creativity and having different kinds of precise narrow pathways to drive on. So I think there's a balance between where it's precise enough it's still interesting, but it's not too hard so you can still drive the start consistently. After the start, place a few blocks and then a turbo or reactor. This will create a little, almost kind of like a mini game where the players need to take the tightest line to try and get to the booster as soon as possible. And so it can be fun to hunt these kind of starts because you're just trying to optimize how quickly you can get to the booster to get that big burst of speed. So it's a great option for speed tech or full speed tracks where you need to drive most of the track at a high speed. This is really one of my favorite kind of starts. I think this minigame is so fun to hunt because while you're racing the whole track to get to the finish to set the best possible time, you're also racing just the start to get to that booster as quickly as possible. It's also very easy for beginner players to understand that they want to drive a really tight line to get to that booster to get the burst of speed. In general, turbos and reactors are just a lot of fun to drive on, so it's going to make your track more fun on map review as well. This is also very easy to combine with different types of starts. For example, if you have a U-turn and then you have a booster a little while later, there are just so many different combinations and variations of starts that it's difficult to classify them. A dirt no-slide start involves building your dirt track in a way that will require the players to steer at the beginning of the track, but also maintain full grip. So if the players steer too much, then the car starts sliding on dirt and they'll lose speed. So they need to maintain full grip through the no slide. You won't see this type of start very often, but I do think it's a great choice for dirt tracks to get a little more technical and have players show off that skill for no sliding at the beginning of the track. I think sometimes beginner players have trouble if they know whether they're supposed to slide or supposed to do no slide, or if they are sliding or not. So I think that's maybe why we don't see this as commonly in Track of the Days, but I think it's awesome for dirt tracks to start off with a no slide. The slope wiggle start is built with a very specific block combination where you place a slope block kitty corner to the start block. So players need to do a little wiggle as they go over the top of the slope, because if they don't, they'll get a little bit of airtime. The slope wiggle start is very commonly used because having a downhill near the start of the track makes the car accelerate faster, so players will spend less time at a lower speed and just get into the rest of the track. I think in general, players enjoy driving this type of start, but I think beginner players sometimes fumble a little bit on figuring out how to reduce airtime. There's a general trend of having downhills at the start of your track, so players aren't spending a lot of time at the start of your track and they just get up to speed as quickly as possible. A speed check start involves putting a calculated jump or some kind of speed check within the first few blocks of the track. The first example is a drop down that gives you enough speed the player can go right into an ice slide. This was from the TMGL track Icy Jump. Because the speed check happens at the start of your track, if a player misses the speed check, they can respawn and just try it again. So the speed check will always be calculated and possible. You don't have to move the respawn location for a booster like you would if you had a speed check later in the track. So having a speed check after the start and before the first checkpoint, as long as it's not too difficult, is pretty much the only way you can have a speed check in a Track of the Day track. So I think a lot of these examples just look kind of like a calculated jump, but if you didn't have any speed at all, you wouldn't make the jump. So it is a type of speed check, but it's just very easy for players to have enough speed for it since there's a low speed requirement. And as long as they drive it properly from the start of the track, then they'll make the jump. Having a unique speed check start is one of the best ways to make your track stand out, so you could even free block just to start, but have the landing from the speed check on grid, so you only have to deal with free block scenery around the start. Press forward is a really cool mapping style where maps are calculated, where you only have to press forward and the car will do all these crazy tricks. Sometimes mappers will put a press forward section at the beginning of a regular track. This ends up being very consistent, but can be very tedious to hunt because the first 5 seconds of the track is just a player holding forward with nothing else to do. This drop down is another example. I would recommend putting a no steer at the beginning of your track just to make sure if you do a press forward section that there aren't any weird tricks. Midori is famous for a lot of things, but most notably it's famous for the Ice Wiggle start. Ice Wiggles have been discovered and changed over the course of a few patches, and nobody knows what future patches may do to Ice Wiggles in the game. So starting your track with an ice downhill, where players can wiggle to gain more speed, might not be the best choice because the world records could become unbeatable in the future. Building something really weird or difficult at the start of the track will turn your track into a restart simulator, but that's actually a great choice for super short tracks. So many tracks just start with some basic turns, but they're usually calculated so you can hold down accelerate through the entire start of the track. I'll put on some music for you to enjoy while I show these examples, and if you watch until the end, I have a surprise at the end of the video.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in us. They know we'll burn down the night. Come in just
I created a Discord community. The link is in the description. So I'll play every single map you guys post in that Discord. And if you're working on a map and want my feedback on it, there's a channel where you can post that as well. Hope to see you guys there. Thanks for watching.